Well, a couple of weeks ago, I made a video about Guy McPherson with relationship to geoengineering, and I thought that that was the final word. It was from me, but the whole thing is impinged on me. So here I am again, and it bothers me so much I can't stay silent. Sorry. So over the summer period, we call it the silly season here, I've taken or tried to take a bit of a break. I started off by kind of just doing some reading and catching up with watching things and reading books and things that I don't really have the time or energy to do otherwise. I've had the upset of a diagnosis of Parkinson's plus, and then I was put on some drugs that cause the very symptoms that I've had for years and make my life not worth living. So how would I ever take drugs that are going to cause that? And then I've been terribly distressed by the news over the summer of the Australian bushfires that are so close to us here in New Zealand. I mean, the Australians are really our cousins. And now we have the events in the Middle East, which again distress me and scare the shit out of me, especially today. And then in the midst of that, yesterday I woke up to a private message because I haven't blocked him all of a sudden, and that's what I have to talk about here. But I also want to talk about some other things, and they were private thoughts before, but in the circumstances I'm not going to stay silent about them anymore. So let's just go. Okay. So I think sharing the screen now, I've never quite got the hang of this. So I'll just read this out. Guy McPherson threatens time to defend yourself. And I said in my blog yesterday, no, it's not. I've been taking things easy and trying to mark Christmas, New Year, my partner's birthday, while my mind and soul is taken up with the fires in Australia and the murder in Iraq of Soleimani in Iraq. So this was the very last thing on my mind. I just got a personal message from Guy McPherson. Was it to wish me Happy New Year? No, it was to say time to defend yourself, and it came with a tweet. So this guy is so, I don't know, obsessed that either he or he's got someone else to do it for him, has delved back over stuff that's 3-4 years old. So it's this. And I said that at the time. So I'll just give a moment so you can have a look. And of course, isn't it a natural thing to change one's views in the light of new information? Well, not in someone's books. Anyway, so I said, this reads like something like from the OK Corral, or most appropriately from Trump. So apparently I had a look back, and apparently what he said was, well, he says, was time to defriend yourself. I mean, I got rid of the incoming correspondence straight away, and then I went and had a look on his private um, private Facebook page to see that he was talking about it in a very small number of people compared with days gone by where so we're discussing this. And so he must have really wanted me to see this, because in addition to PMing me, he tagged me on his post. So I said, I won't be engaging directly because there's no need to. I'm no longer part of the tribe, which seems to have all the signs of being a cult, and no longer wish to cross paths with either of the people mentioned above. That's Guy McPherson, Pauline Schneider, and Kevin Hester, after being dumped unceremoniously 6 months ago on ideological grounds. I've got bigger fish to fry, not least my own health, and I will not stop speaking my own truth. So this is the dictionary definition of insane. That's the word that has been ascribed to me, and I think he's since tried to find some even worse kind of word to describe. So I looked it up, and it's exhibiting a severely disordered state of mind affected with mental illness. Well, I don't think Parkinsonism and the like that I've quite sunk to that level yet. I hope someone will warn me when I'm getting there. And I don't think that holding contrary views quite fits with the definition. Being so obsessed that you have to find a Facebook page from 3 years ago to make a personal point does. For what it's worth, referring to the post above, I wrote about rain at the North Pole in 2016, and in 2020 I'm still talking about it. And I know someone who is not talking about it and hasn't for some time. And then Kevin Hester jumped in with his bit about mental health and a flip-flop. One might have thought it was a sign of sanity to change or modify one's thinking in response to new information, but not if you're doing work for the tribe, as Kevin said in his interview of me a year ago. So this is what he said, and I thought that this was a reasonably good response. So would it be appropriate to point out that at the time, 2016, when I wrote that, I was led by these various people to believe that Dane Wigington was a climate change denier. I've since learned that that was a lie. So I've changed my views. So I have had some sort of personal observations which I've sort of kept to myself or just discussed with my nearest and dearest and didn't want to make public. But in view of this latest thing, because I take it very seriously when people impinge on your private space for something like this. So I'm not going to remain silent. I've known Guy for 6 years. He first came to New Zealand in 2012. We organised a meeting for him. Kevin Hester brought him out in 2014 and 2016. And so I've had quite a lot to do with him. And over the years, I've defended him quite aggressively. And not the least, perhaps the most problematical of them was defending him over the scandal over the sexting of with an young Australian woman that really sort of broke up the community, and there's a whole kind of heap of people who he'll have nothing to do with since then. So going back to July, when we had this this absolutely insulting visit from Guy, and in the aftermath, Pauline Schneider wrote some things. Every sentence of which, I would say, was a lie, and she repeated these lies to my partner Pam, who put her right on it, and of course we hadn't heard from her since. So the point I'm getting around to is that if she can lie about that, and I can see that so clearly, can I believe her or take her at her word in her defense of Guy over that? To my greatest regret, I have to say, no, I can't. And then the other thing is that for approximately 2 to 3 years, we've not really got any science of Guy whatsoever. He was living at Belize at the time, and he stopped contributing to his big essay, and the excuse back then was he was living in Belize, and it was shitty bandwidth and he couldn't sort of work. Well, since then he's moved back to America, first of all to Westchester County, which I understand is the richest county in America, and then to, is it Port Lauderdale, somewhere in Florida, which is approximately the same. And so he's not really got any excuse. He's got all the access to, you know, to the internet and everything that he needs to do his research, and he's not doing it. And yet he spends his time kind of going back, dredging up old stuff from 3 years ago, and he's just obsessed with the geoengineering. And then the other thing about it is, from all the time that I knew Guy, he always wore the same jacket, the same sort of kind of old clothes year after year over 3 visits to New Zealand. And then on the 4th, after they'd sort of moved to America and they'd come out on their sort of farewell trip to New Zealand, to sort of say farewell to this part of the world before we all go extinct. And he had a new set of clothes. Well, that was an absolute first. So I just have this question, because, you know, I've observed the change of behavior. I've noticed that he's not talking at all. He's acting very, very, in my mind, he's acting very, very strangely. I mean, I don't follow him at all these days, but I still get these stuff coming across my bow, so I have a fair idea of what he's talking about, and it's nothing like what he was talking about a few years ago. I mean, that's what drew me to him. But there's none of that. There's none of that left. And then there's this sort of going off on tangents, very, very strange sort of behavior. He's fell out with just about everybody. The list of people who have betrayed him is absolutely legion. He's the only one who's correct, and he's got a, what seems to be, judging by his Facebook page, compared with yesterday, quite a small number of acolytes who just hang on his every word. I don't believe that I joined a cult, or I hope I didn't, but what I see now, it certainly post sort of 2016, 2017, since his move back to America, it looks very much like a cult to me. And where are his videos on climate change? Where are his public talks? Yeah, so I'm just asking the questions. I'll leave it to others to make the conclusions below. I've got a few ideas sort of floating around in my head. So anyway. So having said that, I will just finish off with a comment that someone made a couple of days ago on my to my last video. So it's this, it's from Proudhon 100. I developed a theory a few years ago after Guy fell out for no apparent reason with Hambone Littletail. Well, I'm not sure. I think I would fall out with Hambone Littletail as well, but never mind. Back in the 1960s, the black singer Paul Robeson was proving to be influential with large sections of the population, both in America and in large parts of the world. Since Robeson was a bit of a socialist, the IA took action. They discreetly administered hallucinogens, and the poor man ended up thinking he was losing his mind. His career and his influence never recovered. I wonder, given McPherson's increasingly weird behavior, whether he has had the same treatment as Robeson.